Today in Warframe, we're going to go over the next update, the Valis Undermines forum post over damage attenuation and quality of life. The Valis Undermined is absolutely sprouting with new content, including the funnest guy of all, Noko, but this update brings even more with it, a variety of quality of life and reworks. As with all dev workshops, everything listed here is subject to change until launch. For information about the Oberon rework changes, go check out that, but I also made my own video, so feel free to go check that out. Today's dev workshop is dedicated to damage attenuation changes, accessibility, screen shake, and recoil changes, and then general quality of life changes. There's mush to go over, so let's dive in. It's okay, I mistype things 24/7. They meant must, and that's okay. First and foremost, the damage attenuation changes. If you've already seen the whole video, the quick TLDR is literally at the end, where it's no more flat numbers, standardized numbering, I guess, standardizing damage attenuation, lower attenuation, and enemies will have higher health, and it's gonna scale better for multiplayer. There's also a lot of bosses, so things might get missed, and everything is imperfect. Life sucks, it is what it is. Damage attenuation is one of the tools we use to normalize the bossing difficulty between groups of players, and its implementation has been a hot topic in the community for a while now. While meant to balance out high-powered enemies, or high-powered builds, attenuation could sometimes lead to paltry damage numbers, great to make an enemy hard to kill, but not necessarily fun to play. What, you don't like bullet sponges? With community feedback in mind, we have some sweeping changes planned, which we've outlined below. The core of our goal is as follows. Address outlier cases of bosses having a very long time to kill as a result of damage attenuation, notably in high-level content. B, making player builds feel impactful against damage attenuation bosses. Yeah, because like this game just feels like shit half the time with bosses because of it, and it's always been kind of unfortunate. I love Warframe, but it's a good horde-killing goofy game. It's not really a great serious bossing raiding game, you know? Standardizing how damage attenuation applies. To the majority of boss-type enemies in Warframe, there will be a few moving pieces here. So we'll first break down the wider attenuation changes, then go over how we'll be standardizing this for various enemies. Few keys to familiarize yourself with as we move forward. I can't speak right now, just don't worry about it. Damage attenuation. Oh, okay. Damage attenuation is a mechanic that caps the amount of damage that an enemy can take. Warframe uses caps for damage per second and per instance. Damage reduction, a modifier that directly reduces damage taken by a flat amount. Example, 50% reduces it by 0.5, yeah, you know, multiplier. Damage reduction not directly relevant to this dev workshop, but we want to show how it works differently from damage attenuation. Max damage per second is MDPS, so the maximum DPS you can do, and then max damage per instance. That is the maximum amount of damage you can do in one number, essentially, one instance of damage. So that one number, well, sniper, bullet, or melee, yeah. Time to kill. Self-explanatory, how long does it take them or something to get killed, start to finish. So that's all pretty normal. Good intro there. Let's see how long this is. It's a decently long dev workshop, so we might be reading for a little bit. Let's get to it, everyone. Damage attenuation scaling. If you hop into a Legasite Harvest mission in Hulvania on the live build, a few things will change depending on whether you're on the normal path or steel path. Enemies have different modifiers, squad consumable cooldowns, so on. One thing that stays the same is the current max damage per second and max damage per instance that the Legasite will take. This is because damage attenuation applies to the Legasite as a flat value regardless of its health pool. At normal path levels, the values can feel reasonable, but once steel path or even temporal Archimedia modifiers apply, that's where the bullet sponge allegations begin. At certain points, damage attenuation becomes less of a tool to balance out powerful player builds, and more so act as a time gate to kill high health enemies. Careful touch is needed to embrace the power fantasy of Warframe while also ensuring high-level content's not completely trivialized. In the current iteration of damage attenuation, we have not accomplished that goal to our satisfaction. Simply put, it has created gameplay interactions that are unfun, so the following changes are being made to address it. Understandable. Firstly, damage attenuation value is now proportional to max health. Sick. Secondly, damage attenuation maximum damage per second is now applied independently between players. Damage attenuation in proportion to max health. We go back to the Legasite examples earlier. Players should notice a distinct difference in how damage attenuation applies to this enemy in both Steel Path and Temporal Archimedia missions, instead of the MDPS and MDPI using the same values of normal path Legasites. The amount of damage players can deal per second and per instance now scales based on the enemy's max health. As max health increases with enemy level and mission modifiers, so will the maximum damage caps from damage attenuation. The result is a higher damage output from players and a more reasonable time to kill. Players who invested much time and effort into their builds should feel more rewarded for their work, especially against high-level enemies with damage attenuation. Our focus with this sweeping change is to establish the overall time to kill for the enemies within a reasonable range, considering the equipment available to players when they are first encountered. Since this is a significant change to how damage attenuation is calculated, we will be increasing the health of various bosses to balance with the new scaling mechanic. Goal is to reward players with powerful builds, but still avoid one-shotting Archons. We'll cover the health changes in standardized damage attenuation and sections below. Max health for this calculation only uses health. It does not use overguard, shield, and armor values. Good to know. It's gonna be a long one, actually. Jeez, there's a lot of reading to go over, so I do appreciate everyone joining me today, subbing, liking, and if you end up using Epic Games creator code Pupsker to ever buy anything on the Epic Games Store, thank you, as I am an Epic partner and all that. Let's continue on. Maximum independent maximum damage per second per player. Currently, maximum damage per second per player, MDPS I mean, max damage per second, cap in damage attenuation applies squad-wide. If you have a teammate blasting their 6 Forma Incarnate Form Latum on Archon, oh no, there's a good chance they consistently hit those pillows before you have an opportunity to aim your gun. I think that's why a lot of the time when you're bossing and fighting a lot of bosses with a lot of multi-shot and a lot of people shooting at it, it seems like you get 0 damage and a lot of your shots just don't do anything. I believe that's why. It's because it's straight up, like everyone's just doing so much damage, the game just stops calculating it because it's like, sorry, you hit damage cap. And it always felt like shit. Warframe's always been a game that's fun to horde shoot, but dog shit for bossing. It's a fun game, but it's not a good bossing game. If you want a good bossing game, play, I don't know, MMOs and other shooters. Oh well. So let's continue. If you have a teammate blasting 6 pillow, 1 shot. This could lead to situations where your seemingly powerful weapon could result in feeble damage output. We all know that this is basically a crime in the world of Warframe. Players spend hours perfecting their builds, and we want them to feel impactful in missions as far as we can. With that in mind, the MDPS and damage attenuation will now be applied on a per player basis. The damage output of your squad mates no longer has an impact on the efficacy of your attacks. Max damage per instance has always applied per player due to the nature of the mechanic, so it is unchanged. To recap, our damage attenuation changes. The damage caps now scale proportionally to the enemy's max health and no longer apply squad-wide. Now, let's move on to how we are standardizing it. Damn, that's a long read. We're not going to go over each enemy using standardized damage attenuation, though, because that's just silly. There's a lot of them. Standardizing damage attenuation. Damage attenuation is just one method that we use to balance player power against boss-type enemies. Depending on whether you fight an Eidolon, a Kuvalich, or an Archon, your damage output will be affected in different ways. These differences are often the legacy of the many hands that we've worked to make Warframe over the years. Decisions for new content in 2018 can eventually result in gameplay quirks that players learn to adapt to in 2025. There's so much to learn in Warframe, and that list only grows with every update. Part of maintaining a decade-long game is reducing the scope of what players need to know. With that in mind, we are replacing existing damage attenuation on various boss-type enemies and standardizing them to use the same system. Actual MDPI and MDPS values will be balanced around the content type, but enemies from Liches to Void Angels to Legocytes now all share the same attenuation mechanic. For those familiar with Archon Hunts, a new standard model is based around the damage attenuation in those missions. As mentioned earlier, we are increasing base health values to increase time to kill for these foes. While larger health pools may increase difficulty, they also increase damage attenuation caps since they now scale with max health. Our hope is that players will hit harder and their weapons will feel more satisfying while also ensuring enemies have a reasonable time to kill on both ends, avoiding one-shots but also avoiding time-gated slogs. Since these changes are still in active development and requiring careful testing, we are not sharing stat changes in this dev workshop. Look for an extensive overview in our official The Valis Undermined patch notes. However, we can confirm that this new version of damage attenuation will be applied to the following enemies. Note, we are including enemies that already use damage attenuations, Archon, so players have a comprehensive list, and understand that new attenuation scaling changes also apply to them. So yeah, the TLDR is, I guess, Archon attenuations now applying to all of these dudes. That's a lot. Oh my god, I didn't realize so many, but it makes sense, right? Zealoid Prelate, Necromite, Legocyte, Juggernaut. Yeah, fuck the Juggernaut. It's so annoying. Cool. Look for final stat changes in Valis Undermined patch notes with such a sweeping change. The real way to understand its impact will be through gameplay. We'll be keeping a close eye on feedback after this launches to ensure we struck the proper balance. Once the Valis Undermined is in your hands, please let us know how this new damage attenuation feels against specific enemies so we can continue to iterate post-launch. Hopefully all of that is looking good for everybody. Accessibility, screen shake, and recoil changes. Earlier in 2025, we unintentionally released a change where screen shake toggle would also remove the screen movement tied to weapon recoil. For much of Warframe's history, the toggle would remove screen shake but retain screen movement tied to weapon recoil. This looks awesome, by the way. So this is how it's trying to look. You shoot, but like your reticle is going up, but like the screen does not move. Interesting. Depending on the weapon you were firing, the screen would jiggle to mirror the recoil. Upon reverting this change a month later, we started receiving feedback that this screen jiggle was causing players to experience motion sickness. Oh, that's funny as hell. While weapon recoil was restored to its original state, the conversation that occurred after its return made us look closer at its accessibility for those prone to motion sickness. With that in mind, we are making the following changes for 10.0 with the screen shake toggle turned off. Removed screen movements when firing guns, added a diamond to the reticle which will be representative of guns' recoil patterns. Original reticle dot will remain stationary, new diamond will move to indicate recoil patterns when the gun is firing. So your reticle stays there, but the diamond is that's where it's shooting. So you see how this one shoots up a lot, so you'd want to aim down. That's actually really cool. That might be an interesting new way to toggle on the game. I don't know if I'll use it, but hey. Weapon screen shake changes. 10.0 who keep their screen shake enabled in accessibility options may notice slight adjustments to the intensity of screen shake on some weapons. With our review of screen shake, we felt that the following weapons had too strong of a recoil effect, so we have reduced screen shake for the following. Titanium, okay, I'm not gonna go over all of these, but these all have reduced screen shake. Finally, reduced screen shake on Latum. Oh, I hated the Latum so much. Like, I like the gun, but I hate the screen shake. Also cool, Bubonico. Let's go over everything still? Okay, yeah. Motion controls on PlayStation. Speaking of accessibility, we are thrilled to introduce motion control capabilities to the PlayStation platform. Players can enable this via the new toggle motion control settings, launching on PlayStation with the Valis Undermined. PS4 and PS5 10.0 looking to make use of this new functionality will be able to toggle it on when the update launches, and look to the patch notes for more details if desired. Sick. General quality of life changes. Not too much now. That was like the big brunt of the reading, so it should go a little faster now. Let's take a look at what they're cooking for the Valis Undermined. Arcanes in Archguns. This one's sick, by the way. Heavy guns are getting even heavier. Thick. With the ability to install Archgun arcane adapters coming the Valis Undermined. Players can earn these through new deep mine bounties or by trading with Nightcap. Okay, so it's not going to be using primary and secondary. That's good to know, actually. Thank you for telling us that. Each arc gun can now come with 2 arcane slots that can be unlocked. Installing an Archgun arcane adapter unlocks 1 arcane slot. The top can be slotted with primary arcanes and the bottom with secondary arcanes. So you can slot your arc gun to have like a primary merciless and a primary and a secondary deadhead or like something like that. So you can stack like 600-700% damage purely on arcanes. You can actually do so much goofy bullshit with this. It's insane that they're giving arc guns 2 arcanes, because arcanes are actually like usually a mod and a half to 2 to 3 mods worth of value. So I don't know, that just seems insane to me. But arc guns are in a weird place, so I guess arc guns might be turning up for like a certain meta using your arc guns more often. Either way, I'm all for it, and I think it's a really cool change. Love you, Warframe. Hugs and kisses. Nullifier bubble ability interaction changes. So the TLDR is this. Nullifier bubble with all of these is not going to remove them instantly. Frost Snow Globe, Limbo's Cataclysm, Mag's Magnetize, Oberon's Hollowed Ground, and Araxia's Webbed Embrace. For the Frost Snow Globe, Nullifier Bubble now drains Snow Globe's life 20 per second and cannot gain strength when a Nullifier Bubble is touching it. Limbo now shrinks 4 times faster when touching a Nullifier Bubble instead of being removed instantly. New Limbo meta, baby! The game is here. Magnetize's duration expires 4 times faster, but ends instantly if the Nullifier Bubble touches the center, okay? No longer removes Hollow Ground, but protects enemies from Hollow Ground's effects, okay. No longer removes Webbed Embrace, but again, protects enemies from Webbed Embrace's effects. Okay, not bad. So the cosmetic quality of life, Fashion Frame is getting the love it deserves with the following changes. Signas on operators and drifters, much like on Warframe, players can now equip Signas to their operator and drifters via attachments in the appearance menu. Can we talk about how sick that is? We can finally have Signas on our ops. Like, that's actually dope as hell. I need to take a screenshot of this one, and you will all watch me do it, because it's awesome. Because, like, look at that. Fashion frame, dude. Okay, good fashion frame. Equipped both side toggles, okay, and increase favorites palettes. They double 25 to 50. Toggle the attachment, screen with that toggle off. Shoulder armor and leg armor will apply the same armor piece on both ones. Okay, not bad at all. Almost done here. Reduce Techrot spawn in Scaldra Exterminate missions. This one seems to be pretty self-explanatory. While these enemies add flavor to Hulvania, their appearance in Scaldra missions have been a source of consistent feedback since 1999, launched last year. With the Valis Undermined, we are reducing the number of underground tiles that spawn in Scaldra Exterminate and Hellscrub missions, as that's where Techrot are known to emerge. Okay, I get it. I completely agree, by the way. It's not nice when you're running a Scaldra mission and it turns into a Techrot because most of the mission's underground, so you're forced to like stay to a tiny above ground area. Usually it's not a big issue, you just have to find the larger above ground issue, or a larger above ground area, but it can still be a bit of a pain, so I get it. Grineer Asteroid and Relay Relight. The Grineer Asteroid tile set and relays have received lighting upgrades, so it looks prettier. Grineer Asteroid, new lighting, relighting. TLDR is just better lighting, volumetric fog, stuff like that. Relays also look a little cooler, so you can't be mad at that. We are aware that GI lighting can have performance issues, concerns with lower powered systems, but rest assured, our goal is to have as little performance impact on these changes as possible. So everybody, that is the second forum post, and that is it for today's videos. I might get a short up today and a handful of shorts up tomorrow, just going over some individual changes for this next update, right? Some of the weapons, some of the warframes, or some of the like quality of life things. But either way, that's it for full-length videos today. Thank you all for being here, and if you like the actual damage attenuation changes, let me know. As always, thank you for subbing, liking, using Epic Games creator code Pupsker, and checking out any of the socials. I will see you next time. Cheers, cheers.